Thank you for tuning in to Fat Black and Femme. I'm Bree. Co-host Jordan is on a bit of a hiatus right now, but hopefully she will be back next week. And we are so excited to be bringing you some fresh new content. We've been away for a little while, but now we are getting back into it with our Black Health series. Every week in April for Black Health Month, we are going to be trying to give you some facts, some knowledge surrounding Black people in 4 different fields. That'll be mental health, maternity and birthing, sexual health, and physical health. So we'll have all that going, and we're so excited to bring it to you. You can watch it on YouTube, Facebook. We'll also have it on our home station, WXAR, Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. And we're kicking off the Black Health series with Danielle. We're talking mental health today, and Danielle, just hi for one. And if you could just explain who you are and what you do for everyone.
Yes, I'm Danielle Jones. I go by Dani, so many people know me as Dani. I am a licensed mental health counselor and I work with adults. I do therapy. I'm also a podcaster. I host a podcast for moms just to empower moms because I think motherhood is just a hard task sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I am also a birth and postpartum doula. So I love everything motherhood. I love helping people, and I really absolutely eat, sleep, and breathe mental health. So I'm happy to
Nice.
be here.
Oh, I'm happy to have you. So the doula part, we're going to be tackling that with a mutual friend of ours, Lakeisha, next week, Flower City
Yes.
Doula, and we'll be talking all things birthing, maternityhood, and also breaking down the binaries of that. So we'll be talking all that next week, and we're going to focus with Danielle today on mental health. And right now is such a tough time because we're in the middle of a pandemic that hopefully maybe over soon-ish. They say the only way to get that done is the vaccine, but that also is just adding another mental health thing,
Hmm.
another decision that Black people are having to make for themselves and figure that out. But that on top of that, just everything going on in the country right now. The Derek Chauvin trial is going on in Minneapolis. We just had in Rochester the anniversary of Daniel Prude's encounter with police. Just a lot of things. Oh, Breonna Taylor's death anniversary was earlier this month. The month of March was just, it was a lot
Yes.
going through there. So we're talking mental health today because a lot of people don't realize it's just as important as physical health. So I want to ask, like, how do you approach telling people that, try to take care of this? What are steps some people can start doing to maybe take care of their mental health and kind of refocus it?
Yeah, so you said something that's like really important that I always tell people about mental health is that it's just as important as your physical health, right? So when we're hurting or we break something or something happens, we immediately will go see our doctor or go to the emergency room or something like that, right? But we also hear every day about how important it is to take care of our physical health as far as like what we're eating, exercising, paying attention to getting enough rest. So mental health literally is the same. We need to also be paying attention to what we're feeding our minds, right? What we're reading, what we're listening to, and like what we're listening to every day. So just one thing that I always talk about is positive affirmations. I tell people to feed your mind a positive affirmation every day, right? So the same way that you will try to eat something healthy every day, like you want to be putting something healthy into your mind. Um, Also, I know, and I'll talk more about this throughout our conversation, but therapy, right? So having someone that you can go talk to and do like a mental health check-in. So the same way you would go for like your physical once a year, having someone that you can go to for a mental health checkup, right? So even if I tell my clients to do it like at least 3 times a year, right? Because so much happens and things change so quickly that you can become stressed out easily just out of nowhere, especially, I mean, look what we're going through right now with the pandemic, right? We did not expect that. So something like that, how that happened and just kind of threw everyone off. So having someone that you can check in with regularly about your mental health, I also think is very important. Um, and I would say, in our community, in the Black community, I know mental health has been something that has been very taboo, and
Hmm.
we don't talk about it often. I cannot remember like any time that anyone in my family ever mentioned mental health, like when I was growing up, as a child. It was always just like, oh, that person's crazy, right? Or,
Hmm.
that person has just lost it. No one ever mentioned what mental health was. And so looking back now, I'm like, now I see like some of the issues that people were having in my family, right? Or just like friends of the family in our neighborhood. They weren't just crazy, like they were dealing with some mental health issues. And so I love that the conversation about mental health in the Black community is starting to happen more. So, and I'm loving that, I'm seeing a shift, and I'm seeing more of people who look like me being willing to talk about mental health and get help if they are having some mental health issues.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I got into therapy maybe like 2 years ago now. I try and go weekly, but I'm or biweekly. And
Hmm.
it's not always possible. Life gets in the
Right.
way, it's strange to say, but taking an hour out of your week is sometimes too much.
Hmm.
You're trying to fit so much into it. But it's so important, those sessions we get in. Even sometimes if I haven't seen my therapist in a month, even just that kind of snap back of like going back to that routine and talking to someone, and it can really play a huge part in how I kind of move about my next days, the next few days,
Yes.
and it really plays a huge part in that. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot more people be much more open about mental health and care more. I definitely look back at my family, I'm like, oof, we need counseling, like, but
Hmm.
and it's still very much a taboo topic for them. Like I don't think I've suggested it to my mother, to my sister, and they very much are like, I don't know about that. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm just trying to help. I'm
Right.
not calling you, and they think I'm calling them crazy. And it's like, that's not it. I'm
Yeah.
saying we all have trauma that we've lived with as Black people, Black women, because these are the people I'm talking to. Like, we have specific hard trauma that, unless you take care of it, will sit on your brain and sit on your heart
Hmm.
forever, and it will impact everything you ever do. And I don't
Yes.
think people put that much importance on mental health. Like, if you have a heart condition, that's impacting your life, that's impacting your breathing, that's impacting everything. And that's the same way mental health is, and it should be
Yes.
held to that standard. So how do you take care of your own mental health? Like, what do you do to take care of Dani?
Yeah. So, honestly, the therapist has a therapist. Um, and I will text my therapist like, girl, I need to get in for a session. And I will go see my therapist as much as I need to. Even though this is my lane and this is my specialty, I know that I still have flaws of my own, and I can try to like talk myself through things, but some of my ways of thinking are not healthy still. And so
Mhm.
I know that. And so I'm like, I need somebody else to check me. And I'm okay with being able to say that. So I definitely go to therapy. And I get what you're saying about not being able to go like every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just is a lot, but just having that relationship with your therapist to be able to just be like, okay, now I'm ready for another session,
Yeah.
right? And we don't go to the physical doctor every 2 weeks either.
Mhm.
Like it's usually when we need a check-in. Um, I'm really big on coping strategies. So I enjoy reading. So I love reading. I will try to read something for pleasure, but then I'm also always reading something like related to my field, because I just love to learn. But I know it's important to take a break sometimes. And sometimes I might pick up like one of those ratchet books that is just like something I don't really have to think
Uh-huh.
about, right? But
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Mm.
I love to go for a walk, like now that the weather is getting nice. I'll tell my husband, like, let's take the dog for a walk, and my son will just ride his bike. So I also try to get my family involved on that too. Like, let's just go out walking. We love to go out to eat, which is like a really bad habit, but like,
It's
but
fun
that's
though, not eating something that you didn't cook. What? Like, that's
girl.
great.
And every week, I feel like every week we say, okay, we're gonna do better this week. Like we're not gonna eat out.
Say no
It be
more.
over.
Every week. And I remember last week, it was like we're both working. We're like, who's cooking? Nobody. Uh,
Right.
so it's a different fast food. It was a different fast food place every night. But some, some weeks are better. But yeah, it's
Yes.
very convenient, and it's sometimes, like we said, carving out time for certain things just is
Mm-hmm.
not there, or carving out the energy for certain things just isn't there. Like when I
Yes.
remember times that I've skipped out on therapy because I mentally felt like I can't dig deep right now. Like I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
even though that's probably the days you should go, but
Yeah.
that was, that's definitely the days you should go. But I was like, oh, I can't deal with my mental state mentally right now. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think if I so it's those instincts is like, nah, girl, that's the day you should have went. And that's a
Yeah.
lot of people, like, that's the days you feel like you can't take anymore. That's when you should definitely be there. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to get to that point. You can go before that.
Right.
But at the very least, when it gets to that point, those are the days you should be calling and asking for help
Yes.
and reaching out.
I
So
think I was gonna say like something that you said. I had a session earlier with the client and they said exactly what you just said. Like right before it's time for me to have therapy with you, sometimes I just want to chicken out. And they're like, I just want to text you and be like, oh, I got into a car accident, I can't make it. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's process that. Like, let's talk about what's going on. But she mentioned like when it's time for therapy, she knows that some things are going to be revealed, or she's going to have to dig into some things, and that makes her like really uncomfortable. And I think it's important for people to know that about therapy, right? Like when you go to therapy, the therapist is not there to just fix everything, right? We don't have all the answers. We can give you some pointers, and some tips, but you are really the expert on what you need, right? And you
mhm,
are the expert on doing the work, and we're there to support you and walk alongside of you. But also knowing that therapy is hard work. You are going to have to like reveal and dig up some things that you probably really don't want to touch, but deep down it is playing a factor in how you're behaving daily, or how you're relating to people, or how you're just kind of thinking and feeling, right? And so a lot of times people will like kind of like skip out on a therapy session because they're like, I just can't do it today, which is totally fine. I just would encourage people to like just let their therapist know, like, today I just can't, right? And
yeah,
so as therapists, we understand that. And I can be like, okay, I respect you for telling me that. I acknowledge you for being truthful about that. And maybe we'll kind of touch on it next time, right? Like sometimes you just need a break, and that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And it's just dealing with the normal mental health, but we're also in the middle of a pandemic. A
Yes.
year into it, and there seems to be a light at the tunnel. It could be the vaccine, it could not be. Who really knows? I am happy to say both me and Jordan have been fully vaccinated. So both the Fat Black Femmes here are fully vaccinated at this point. But my biggest thing was telling, also when I told everyone that I had my vaccine, a big point to me to make out was that I think it's valid for Black people to go either way. I think it's
Hmm.
valid for Black people to decide, you know what, I'm going to take this chance. And I think, the risk of getting COVID is much higher. So I'm going to do this. But also, Black people who are like, you know what, the medical industry has effed us over and over and over again,
Hmm.
and has used us as guinea pigs many times. So you don't trust something that hasn't been super tested or isn't 100% safe. And I think it's valid to see either side.
Yes.
For a Black person, that just comes with the territory of being Black, and having that history and of that trauma that some of us didn't even personally realize, but we feel from our ancestors,
Hmm.
and the pain that they had to go through in certain things. So I get it completely, but that's
Yeah.
part of the mental health, that back and forth right now about what do I do mentally, like
Hmm.
what do I do?
Yeah. I'm I have family members that have gotten the vaccine, and that was a choice that they made. For me, my choice was to not get it. And and that was my choice to make. Um, and I have my own reasons why, like just being a little bit nervous, like you said, about the history and just not feeling like this medical stuff was set up for us, right? So that's my own choice. But I can say that within like my community of friends and within my family, like just within this Black community, people have been very understanding, like for like the people that I've come in contact with. Like there's people who have gotten it, people who have chosen not to, and we have that respect for each other, and I love to see that, and understanding that everyone has to make their own decisions about it. um Honestly, my like the people who have not been understanding is the other side. That's what I'm gonna say. And I remember I had a coworker say something like really off the wall to me about the vaccine, and I was just like, "Ooh, girl," like she literally told me like, "Oh, I was gonna sit and eat lunch with you, but you didn't get vaccinated." I was like,
I don't want to eat lunch with you anyway.
"That's what I was thinking." Like, I'm
Did
like,
if she's vaccinated, what's she worried about?
girl. I'm like, first of all, you say like it's a privilege for me to eat lunch with you. Like, I never ate lunch with you any other day, so why would I start?
Excuse
Listen,
me?
I was like, first, I was so taken aback, and I was so mad. I remember I called my friend, like, let me tell you what. Well, was a lot of choice words in between there, but it was like, girl, she tried it, like,
Oh no,
but
no, no. And that's the
yeah,
thing. It's like if you're vaccinated, you're fine. You're not. There's
right,
a very small chance of you catching anything or catching or spreading it. You're good. You know, being around someone who isn't, it raises that chance, but not by much because the vaccine, if you
right,
believe it works, should be
you're
doing the
right.
job. You know.
And I had like another lady asked me like, "Oh, did you get vaccinated?" I'm like, "No," and she was like, "Oh, well, you can go here, or you could go there, or you could go here." And I was like, "Well, what makes you think I want to get vaccinated?"
Hmm.
And she just looked at me like, and I'm looking at her like, like,
Yeah.
so so it's the other side that
Hmm.
has been like the
Yeah.
biggest.
You see, I had when I put out there was this terrible, terrible video trying to rope in black people into getting. They had one of the rappers from Run DMC doing.
Mm,
It was really bad marketing. I shared it and I was like, I'm embarrassed that I'm getting the vaccine because of this. Like this embarrasses me. Them just trying to rope in black people, because
mm-hmm.
we're less vaccinated than whites. So I'm like, this is embarrassing. I get an inbox from a guy I barely like have no real association with. Don't get that vaccine. I'm like, I don't get my medical advice from you. So why are you
Right.
feeling like you need to say this? I feel like either side is like I said, when it comes to black people, it's valid.
Yes,
Like me getting
absolutely.
it, I feel more comfortable going to see my family for Easter. I feel,
Mm-hmm.
more comfortable being around people. Places are opening back up. I want to go get some drinks if I can, and I'll feel more comfortable doing that. And
Right.
that's my decision and my thing. Trying to dissuade someone either way is just kind of pointless. And
Right.
unless they're looking for that information or looking for that person to agree with them or talk to them, they don't need your opinion.
Right.
We don't need your opinion either way because I'ma still do what I feel comfortable doing,
Yep.
you know. And it's just I think that's a big part of it. It's just feeling like you're going to get judged by your community if you don't
Mm-hmm.
or if you do. Oh, if you got it, well, you're a fool for letting the government do this to you, blah blah blah. But if you don't get it, you're a fool for not, wanting to contribute to the greater good,
Mm-hmm.
all that jazz they want to spit at you.
Right.
So it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And like I said, it's definitely it's a process. I hope the pandemic ends soon. This is terrible.
Girl, listen.
It's it's terrible, and to be honest, I think enough people will be able to hopefully for herd immunity, and by that time if it's safe, no one grew any third horns, any horns or anything, and you feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable then, okay. But it's
Right.
also, I like I said, to just cap that up, I think either way is valid. Stop
Yes.
trying to dissuade or persuade, or it's not your place. You're not a medical provider. It's
Let people do
no,
their thing. Like,
yeah, yeah, and it's ridiculous. So, but enough about vaccine talk. Enough about that. This is a part one of a Black Health series. Um, and you focus a lot on Black moms and Black parents. And yes, we'll dive deeper into this next week for everyone watching, and
yeah.
birthing and things like that. But what do you do for your moms to try and cope them into some place better mentally and help them?
Yeah. So, um, I know we kind of moved from the vaccine and the pandemic stuff, but I do want to say that or acknowledge that this pandemic has been rough on everyone. I will say that, but I have definitely seen how hard it has been for my moms that I support or for my parents, like when I'm doing parenting training and doing work with families, like it has been really, really rough just because of all the changes that happen so quickly, right? With schools
Mhm,
closing down, some daycares closing down, now parents are home all day with their kids.
mhm,
And I absolutely hated like when I would see people write in these comments like, well, those are your kids, you had them, you shouldn't have had those kids if you're going to complain about being home. And it's like, it's not about being home, it's about the change that happens so quickly,
yeah,
right? And no parent is with their child. Well, some parents might be with their children 24 hours a day, I don't know,
if they're homeschooling, sure.
if they're home, right, if they're homeschooling, and that is their choice, right?
Hmm.
I was not ready for that. I'm a parent too, and I was not ready for that. Like me working during the day and my son being at school was my mental break that I
Yeah.
needed, right? And that
And
was the
that's another
mental
thing.
break.
They think moms don't deserve mental breaks.
That's it.
Because you became a mother, you then are a mother 24/7. You no longer are Dani. You are now
Right.
your child's mom.
That's not
Period.
exactly. And those are the pressures that society puts on moms. Like you are supposed to be able to take and handle anything, no matter what it is, and you need to be able to do it and do it well.
Hmm.
And it's like that is unrealistic, period. So with my moms, I do a lot of work with them around self-care, and I always begin our sessions with, so what'd you do for self-care for yourself since I saw you last, right? And we always end with, let's come up with a plan of what you're going to do for self-care between now and when I see you next time. So I'm very intentional about constantly repeating self-care, self-care, because I want them to understand that they have to make sure they're at 100% before they can give any more to anyone else, right? As a mom or as a sister, as a partner, as a daughter, like women, we just get pulled in so many directions.
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy. Like we get pulled in so many different directions. But with my moms, and with my parents, because I have some dads that I work with as well. Um, I talk to them a lot about self-care. I also talk with them about giving themselves grace. Some days are going to be good days where you're going to like rock out, you're going to be on schedule, everybody's going to be good in your house. And then some days are just not going to be good. And that's okay. Like you can just kind of let that day fall to the side and be like, all right, tomorrow is another day for me to try again, right? And try to get it right. Don't expect yourself to be perfect all the time, you know? And then I would say the third thing I stress a lot is support, like creating a support system for yourself and being okay with finding like another parent that you can connect with and that you can talk to that really understands what it is that you're going through, right? So that you can hear from someone else like, yes, girl, like I had that same experience, right? Or I went through that same thing, or I completely get it. And these are some things that I did that might be helpful for you, right? Because we don't have all the answers. And sometimes we need to hear from other people, like, what are some things that worked for
Yeah.
you that I can try to implement into my life, into my routine with my kids?
Hmm. Definitely. And, it's a taboo topic in the Black community, but hopefully, I hope with these episodes, it's always trying to help someone get more comfortable talking about it and thinking about it and considering it. If someone, what are some tips for people who are attempting to start that journey of helping their mental health?
I would say the first thing to do is definitely connect with a therapist. I know a lot of people are looking for, you obviously, most people want a therapist that look like them, right? So
Hmm.
I know there is a high need for Black therapists in our area, and then just in other states as well. So I would say definitely connect with the therapist. So there are some resources out there that you can use. So there's always Psychology Today. You can go on there, and a lot of different therapists are on there. You can see like what their specialties are, what their rates are, if they are accepting insurances. There's also free, it's called freeblackTherapy.com. So it's a nonprofit organization that you can sign up through, and you can get up to 5 to 6 free sessions with a therapist like in your state. So a lot of therapists are doing virtual right now. So like I have some clients that I work with on there, and they're like in New York City or like other parts of New York State, right? And this organization is paying for them to be able to have these sessions with me, which I think is like awesome because I really want mental health counseling and like to be accessible, right? And some people
Yeah.
can shy away from it because they may think it's too expensive, right? Or that they can't afford it. But there are some agencies out there that help. The other one is called Open Path. You can sign up on there as well, and therapists that are on there have agreed to offer like a really big sliding scale, so you can get a session for as low as like $30, from a therapist in your area. Um, there's also the Black Physicians Network. You could go on their website and find a therapist. Like, so there's a bunch of different resources out there. But I would definitely say start with connecting with the therapist. Also, be intentional about carving out time for yourself. So where that self-care piece comes in.
Hmm.
And do something that makes you happy, right? That makes you feel relaxed. Um, Something that is literally just you, like maybe you and some friends, right? Try
Hmm.
to leave the kids behind if you can, like,
Yeah.
or if it's after when they go to bed, after their sleep, then you pull out your pedicure and manicure kit or something, or you take you a hot bath, or you watch a movie that you've been wanting to watch, right? I love Ratchet TV. So I usually have to have to watch that after my son goes to bed,
Hmm.
because I just want to watch it freely and like not have to be worried about what his ears are listening to. Um, and then I will also say another step to just kind of taking care of your mental health is doing some research, right? Learning a little bit more about what mental health is, and learning more about like what are some signs and symptoms you can look for, right? So when it comes to, I know the biggest one is like depression and anxiety, so learning about those signs and symptoms that you can look for, like sadness and like excessive worrying, right? And sleeping issues and eating issues. So just know some of those things that you should be looking out for, so that you are always on top of it. Like if you start experiencing those things, you can say, okay, like maybe I do need to reach out to someone at this point for some support.
Yes. And you touched on a big part of it. It's also not always accessible to Black people.
Mm-hmm.
We constantly have places moving out of the city, moving into the suburbs, and
Yes.
so it's a constant battle. And also, just even if they were there, sometimes not being able to afford it, transportation issues. It's a lot of things that sometimes can plague the community, um, that are systemic issues rather than not wanting to go or not wanting to
Mm-hmm.
take care of their mental health. So you mentioned a couple of places that may be able to help. So please send those to me. We can post them on the page.
Yes.
Different resources for people. Because the biggest thing I think is making this topic not as taboo.
Yes.
Helping people discover like this can open up a whole different part of you. Start understanding why you do some things the way you do. You know, you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to be, and not all those traits are toxic, but you know, just figuring out why your traits are what they are to begin with. I think that helped out a lot, and it's
Yes.
crazy because I think a lot of the things I figured out was outside of the sessions, but the sessions
Mm-hmm.
helped open things up and helped make me start thinking, oh, why am I thinking this way, or why am I doing it this way? Stop just saying, oh, that's what I do,
Right.
but trying to
Right.
figure out where that came from, where that started, and I feel like that's when you can start to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out and put all the puzzle
Yeah.
pieces together, you know? And
Yeah. So
sometimes
many times. Yeah.
mhm,
So many times I hear people say like, "Well, this is just me, right? This is just me,"
mhm,
and I'm like, "But that's not healthy. Like, like
yeah,
what we gonna do about it, right?" And I've been there, like before. Like I really started to do work on myself, like I've been there, like, well, this is just me, right? Or
mhm,
this is just what I do. I just speak my mind. But
yeah,
sometimes like always speaking your mind is not really coming from a place of like
yeah,
healthiness.
mm,
So, just things like that. So I have been there. And I wanted to say like also with the resources that I talked about, I'm also a resource. I am accepting new clients right now. So, if anyone is looking for therapy, or if you want help connecting, you can always reach out to me. I always say therapy is it's a relationship, right? So you might come to me and my style just might not work for you, and that's totally fine. My feelings never get hurt because I'm always about making sure you get connected with the right person, right? That's someone that has a style that works for you. So I always tell people like it's okay to shop around for a therapist, right? Just like if you're dating somebody and you're not really vibing with them, you're not just gonna stay with them. You're like,
no, mm,
yep, gotta go. Like, thank you, like
huh,
um, take your time, but I am also a resource.
awesome. So we'll also post your information on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of it. And do you have any parting words for our viewers, listeners?
Yes, I would say to give yourself grace. Like that's my favorite line. Give yourself grace. Know that you're not expected to be perfect, and there's going to be some days that are good and some days that are not so good, but you can definitely get through it. Um, Also, I would say, and I tell this to my moms a lot of the times, is that it's not about what's wrong with you, right? People can think if I'm struggling with mental health, something's wrong with me. And it's like, that's not true. Like, we never use that language in my office. Nothing's wrong with you, but it's just about what has your experiences been, or what has happened to you. And that has shaped the way you think, the way you feel, the way you interact with people, the way you approach like situations, and the way you're able to deal with stress, right? But those are things that can be worked through.
Hmm.
So just keep that in mind and pay attention to your language daily. There's definitely power in the tongue. I'm a firm believer of that. So I encourage people to pay attention to the things that you say about yourself and the things that you put out, into the atmosphere.
Yes, yes, definitely. Putting out what you want to get back in return,
Yes.
you know. So, Dani, thank you so much for coming on today. For those of you who are interested in learning more about Dani, about the resources she mentioned, our Facebook page will have all this information. Also, make sure you follow us on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We also have a YouTube page where you'll find, if you're not watching there right now, where you will find a full episode there. Also, just throwing it out, we are looking for sponsors, for partners that want to be a part of the show and the growing platform. So if you are interested in that, if anyone you know is interested, pass the word along. And just, our biggest thing is connecting the community and wanting to be a part of the community and be a part of that connection. And that's the biggest thing. And be sure to tune in next Saturday because we're talking birthing, maternity health, all that stuff with Flock
Yes.
Doula. I am so excited for this conversation. Lakeisha is super, super passionate about it. And it's
Yes.
going to be a really dope conversation. I'm so excited. So yeah, stay tuned. Dani, thanks again for coming on and sharing
Thank
your thoughts.
you.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
having me. This
Yes,
was
of
so much
course.
fun. I appreciate it.
Of course. Once you're a part of the Fat Black and Femme family, it's forever. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching the episode today. And be sure to become a supporter. Like I said, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of it. And we'll see you back here next week. Thanks, Dani.
Bye.